So, when I think about Aaron Allston and Strike Force, it gives me melancholy thoughts to start with, because he was such an incredibly nice man and always so gentle and pleasant and fun to speak with on those occasions when we talked. But also because when I went down to Texas to recover the Strike Force archives and meet with his family, and meet with his mother, and go in and get it, I realized I was holding in my hands a record of almost a quarter of a century long single game under which Aaron and his friends working together created a complete world that didn't just last for, as it does for most games, for a year or two or a few months or even a decade. It lasted, as far as I can tell, going through the archives, for over 2 decades. And it was extensively annotated and had extensive documentation. These guys and gals were writing down notes individually on their games for every game, turning them in, and having a newsletter sent out once a quarter to them detailing everything that had happened in their game universe. The level of documentation using the method that they created is unprecedented and inspirational. You know, here's a group of people that not only had fun together, but kind of created their own culture, their own story, and it lasted and lasted and lasted. The sheer creativity and prolificness of the man, really the Strike Force archives represent only a tiny fraction of his work, and even a tiny fraction in some ways of his unpublished work. In his archives, there were novels and short stories and complete games and supplements, so much. And not only was he extraordinarily creative, he was extraordinarily organized. I mean, there literally were archives. You could go into them. You could find these things. They used the same methodology for a bunch of different genres. Besides Strike Force, they had a sort of campaign that was sort of superheroes as soap opera that they played, looking at the notes, 150 issues of. They had a fantasy setting. They had a secret agent setting. They had sort of high space opera settings, all using the same method of documentation and collaboration and reporting in newsletters. It's a phenomenal achievement. A lot of people, thousands of people, read Strike Force and know about it. But I've seen all the other material, all the other things that were written and recorded and created for this setting, using this method that Aaron pioneered. And it's an extraordinary achievement, and I hope someday we can release more than just one book, but release some of the other settings, some of the other ideas, some of the other complete games he created using the methodology he pioneered. That's what I got.
Sure. That's good. I like it.
Is that okay?
Yes,
All right.
And I